So it is 11 a.m. Sorry, would be very late. Yeah, welcome everybody to this webinar today at Mirasys. And we will talk about the Mirasys face and object blurring today. So it seems that's a small topic, but we have a lot of information for you. Before we start, I would like to ask you for a little homework. So if you have any questions, please put them into the Q&A box of the Teams application, and we will answer them at the end of the session. I do hope that I can answer all the questions. If I don't, so it would be important that you leave at least your name or your contact details so that we can give you the answer later on. But anyway, let's start first of all with an introducing of myself. So my name is Udo Schneider and I'm the Sales and Business Development Director at Mirasys. So working for Mirasys since 8.5 years right now. And I'm really glad to lead you, to guide you through this presentation today. What will be the content today? So first of all, we would like to talk a little bit about Mirasys and our VMS for all those freebies, newbies who never have heard about Mirasys. So there are only 2 slides, so it's not enough time to cook a coffee, maybe an espresso or something like this, who knows us already. And then we will go into the GDPR toolkit. That means with regards to the GDPR conformity, data protection conformity, what kind of tools do we have? So we have a selection out of this, so we will present this. And then we will go into the details, talking about the face and object blurring itself, so some theory. And then afterwards also having a live demo on my demo system to see how it is looking like. So I have here a demo system with 3 servers, or let's say 1 laptop and 2 servers. So the laptop is the master server and recording server as well, and the Spotter client. So it's really working hard right now. So we will go through this, how it is designed, how it is looking like, etc. And at the end, we will have an Q&A session. All right, so let's start with some words about Mirasys. Mirasys is written over 20 years. I would say no, 25 years right now, because as far as I remember, we launched this company in 1997. We have 2022. These are 25 years. Yeah, anniversary. Great today. In our business and our headquarters is based in Espoo in Finland, very close to Helsinki. So we are there in a technology center together with some other technology partners and very close to the technical university. So we use also sometimes the students doing some projects with them together for education, etc., so that we can also give them a flavor of what Mirasys is doing, and they help us as well with their fresh mindset also to speed up our development process or our design process in that way. We are dealing worldwide via partners or via subs. So we have subsidiaries in US and in Brazil, in India and in Thailand. In all the other countries, we have our partners. So we are working with distributors, system integrators, system houses, sometimes technology partners, very closely together. And so we bring the expertise to you, our end customers. What is our major task to do? So we are designing a video management system that is simply collecting, store, and providing data from CCTV cameras and other related sensors. So we call it open, intelligent, easy, and secure. What does it mean? The video management must be secure, so sure, because we are talking about data protection. So the communication as well as the access to the video system must be secured, but also the video streams must be secured, must be encrypted. And this is something that we are following very strongly, our cybersecurity processes, so that you can be sure that our system is secure. Easy does mean it needs to be used and managed easily. Either if you are using it as an end user, or if you are using it as an administrator, or if you are the technical guy. So everything must be so easy that you can do it in a very simple and in a very easy way. Even if it is a complex system, it must be easy to configure and install. Intelligence is everywhere. So we have a lot of a big volume of data, let's say in that way. So from the camera, so we have video footage as well as data from third-party systems. So, and we need not only to collect and store them and provide them, but we need to provide the right data out of this volume of data. So we need intelligence behind it. So we're talking about artificial intelligence on video footage. So to identify special behavior, to use VCA, video content analysis in the simplest way, let's say in that way. But we have, I'm sorry, we are also concentrating on if we have something like a data lake today, yeah, so we are collecting a lot of data from third-party systems also to do artificial intelligence on this. And this is something that we are going into the future. We're trying to develop here also artificial intelligence to dig out of all of this bunch of data that what you need and combine the data in that way that we may have in future also predictions. So maybe if so if you have some data from this and this, so they're matching together in a certain way, and you can say, okay, pay attention, something will happen. So please pay attention. So this is something that we are thinking about for the next future, also to have this data laking as well and doing artificial intelligence on data in general. And open, yeah, our system must be open to be interconnected with third-party systems, either that we are integrated into a third-party systems like a command and control system or a PSIM system like FAST and Advances have, or we are communicating through third parties and we are exchanging data so that we can enrich our database and we can interact with those, let's say, access control systems or whatever you have to get more data on board, but also to send data to the third parties. And this must be very easily done. So in that case, so that it is not costing that much, so that we are using standard interfaces for this. We're not talking about integration in general, so we are talking about exchanging of data, collaboration. And this is much easier than to do an integration with a core system. So we have proven solutions across multiple industries, independent of if it is a 4-channel system or if it is a 4,000 channel system, it does not matter for us. If you're using it for security purposes or for production or for marketing or whatever, we have the solution for every kind of industry, every kind of requirement. And if we don't have today, or if you have a special requirement, we are also very open in that way as a team. So we're looking to the left and to the right, checking what technology partner could help us and our customers to provide a better system or a better scenario to help you to ease up your life and to drastically reduce the time of return on investment in that way. So these were about Mirasys itself, about the company, about the software. Let's run through our original topic, our face and object blurring. So if we are talking about data protection today and the data protection rules, they're everywhere different. So we have this European law with GDPR conformity, but in general, every country, every region is responsible how to put it into the daily business, how to run the rules in the daily business. So they are precising the rules and they're everywhere different. So what is happening, for example, in Munich, that cannot be done in Berlin. This is also a little bit weird sometimes. It is driving us crazy, but we need to live with that because at the end we are talking about personalities, we are talking about personal data. Even with video footage, we are talking about recognition of faces, recognition of human behavior, etc. And we need to protect our customers as well as those guys who needs to be followed up by videos. And so we have a video toolkit for this or GDPR toolkit for this. I just want to introduce some highlights out of this. So first of all, the encryption. I already mentioned it. It does not make any sense if a system is not encrypted at all. Yeah, if it is not secure inside. So I'm not talking about the communication itself between the servers, between the client and the servers, between the client and the cameras, but I'm also talking about the video streaming. So I remember the time when people said, okay, if you have a video stream, you cannot read it out. This is completely wrong. So you can do it. So in that case, it is important that we are also doing encryption of video streams, that we are coding them, decoding them, that we are encrypting them so that it cannot be read out. So this is something that is happening today in more and more camera providers, camera manufacturers, that they're providing an encryption of their video stream based either on their native drivers or based on the ONVIF protocol, the latest ones. And we can do this encryption as well, so we can encrypt the whole system. Then authentication is a big part. So we are providing 2-password authentication so that you have 2 password windows, and you can do the 4i principle here. Or we have also the 2-factor authentication. That means you have 2 passwords, for example, but you have also a special unrolling key that you're taking from an authentication app out of your smartphone that you need to put in. So this is rotating, I think, every 20 seconds. So like you used to do this also with Windows, for example, or PayPal. So we do the same scenario here so that you have an unrolling key. And also, I have also one customer who is doing also an ID card reading to enter the software as well. So everything is possible in that way. Then we are talking about different user right levels. So we have multiple levels of creating user rights. Data protection means also that you protect your users against seeing what they should not see or doing what they should not do. So this is also a protection that we are following up, and our user levels are in let's say unlimited. So you can give one user the right to see only live videos of those cameras. You can give another user the right to see also 5 minutes replay, do the 5 minutes replay. The other can do 24 hours replay or doing exports or whatever. And if it comes to face and object blurring privacy masks, you can enable them, disable them, give them right to see some cameras, give them the right to see not to see the faces on some cameras, etc., etc. And at the end, everything needs to be done on an audit trail, so registered on an audit trail. What has been done in the system by this user and when, what camera has been seen. Everything is listed in the audit trail and can be read out, can be reported, etc., etc. So what we want to concentrate today on the face and object blurring, because this is the topic of this webinar. But you see, this is only a portion of the GDPR toolkit that we have, but it gives you an idea what we can do. Face and object blurring. First of all, let's have some theory about this. So what does it mean? So this is an AI-based technology that we have implemented. So that means a face and object detection has some AI-based modelings that allows us really to do the face and object blurring. And secondly, also it is a sophisticated overlay on Mirasys Spotter. That means it is not running on the server, it is running on the spotter. That means on the user interface. And so it gives you the capabilities really to disable it, to enable it for a couple of cameras, to disable it for everything or only for replays, etc., etc. Right, so it can be done on live videos, on recording videos, or in exported videos. So you see here also in snapshot, we will go through this later on. You have multiple user rights. You can say for live videos, I want to enable it, I want to disable it for recordings, and I want to enable it for exports. So it's really situation oriented. Yeah, so it gives you in the situation that the end user is the right choice and the right capabilities to follow up the GDPR conformity he needs to follow up as well. 4 eyes only, I mentioned it already. So we have also this 2-password authentication or 2-factor authentication that you have, for example, 2 people who needs to log in into the system, and then you can see the faces without any blurring. It is working with every camera, so independent on the resolution, independent on the frame rates, etc., etc., independent on if it's an analog camera or a megapixel camera. And it remains the original footage video footage untouched. That means it is an overlay on the spotter, on the user interface, and it is not touching any original video recordings. Why this? The reason is if you are doing this on the original video footage, and this is very often an example that I'm hearing, okay, but you need to do this, otherwise it's not useful. Remember, if you touch the video footage and you do, for example, facial blurring on that, or privacy masks on that, you cannot use it on court anymore for legal interception. You cannot do this because it is touched, it is changed. So the original footage must remain as it is, and the rest is an overlay, nothing else. And remember, I had once this case where people were using the privacy mask on the camera, and then there was an accident or an incident. So they had a burglar inside the building, and they were not able to get the original video footage because the original video footage was already done with the privacy mask. So doing it with an overlay, you can switch it off, and then you can see what he has done. You can identify him. If you don't do this, you have a useless system. Why to use it if you cannot use it? That's the fact. And then it's bolstered by the Mirasys solution. So there's no additional server load for face and object blurring. For sure, the client has to have a certain performance to do it. So you will see it later on also here. So my system is running on 70% right now, CPU load. In that case, you see also there is a certain delay on this, and sometimes it takes a little bit more time. So excuse me for this. I'm sorry for it, but this is my laptop. So I'm trying to invest into a new server so that I can free my laptop from this, so that the laptop is running faster in that way. But in general, sorry, no additional server load for the face and object blurring. And I'm always saying, just a sidestep, that the client PC must be the most performant in a video management system. So it must have a good graphic card, it must have a good CPU inside, the best CPU inside, a bit of RAM inside, so 8 or 16 gigabyte RAM. So don't save money on buying, let's say, a simple, the cheapest desktop. Just invest, save the money on the server side, and invest here into the client side. The clients and the end user will say thank you to this. So they will grant you their thankfulness for sure. Okay, face and object blurring can be used by any Mirasys spotter, so it's always part of the spotter. Yeah, so you don't need to install a new plugin or whatever. It's always part of the spotter. Then it is part of the standard license, so you don't need to pay an extra license for this. So if you buy our standard V9 enterprise license, or also the base and the pro, I think, yeah, then it's always part of this from the first camera. Starting with the first camera, you have the complete package. And if you really want to have our hardware, so then we are also providing our own client hardware for this, and you can be sure that it is working fine, because this hardware is dedicated, including the disks, including the graphic cards from NVIDIA, to run our spotter on it without any problems, without any hesitation. Okay, let's have a demo. My loveliest part, the demo. Okay, we start with our system manager, our configuration tool. So here you see some servers. You see an HP Z40, 240, and 800, and my local recorder, my NV, I think it's an HP NV laptop. I like it very much. So, and let's go to this demo. We have here the cameras, and in the cameras, you can create your privacies. So let's select the main station here, and then go to the privacy. And then here we have the main station. You see also here the privacy zones. So you can set up the privacy zones if you want. Just as an example here, there's a monitor, for example. I don't want to see the monitor. So yeah, I leave it as this, like this, so then you can see that it is working afterwards. And then you have here object blurring. So face blurring and moving object blurring. So I have ticked on the moving object blurring, so I can tick also the face blurring, but it does not make sense here. So, and then you have the minimum face detection confidence. So it is detecting the face as a face. So then it really depends. You have to adjust it here in that case, that it is really based on the resolution. Here you see also the face detection image size. Here you have here some examples. So take always those one which is the nearest to your resolution. So it must not be, or it should not, it's not necessary, let's say that way. That's the best way. It's not necessary to have an exact resolution here. This is just an example that the model is giving to us. And then you can set up your face detection. The same you can do with the object blurring. So you have, for example, the motion detection sensitivity. Okay, how sensitive is the system to detect the motion, the values, how big the difference in pixel values is to be detected. So I say here 100%, so I can drop it down to 50% or whatever. And then also the background image detection. So that means, okay, how long time it takes to detect that it is a motion or that it isn't a motion anymore because the object is not moving. Yeah. So this is also giving you some certain level. And then you have also motion detection input image size, if it is the original size, or if you drill down for half of the size, 1/4, 1/8 of the whole resolution. So this is also then speeding up if you have, for example, a low level client PC, so then it can speed up also the system here in that way. Yeah, and then the configuration is done in that way. You say, okay, saving it. Remember the mask here. And before we go to the spotter, we also go through the user rights. So we go to the users. So you see my users here. So my user group with 2 users. I open it. And then you see here the rules that you have, the roles that you have for system manager, different roles, and here also for the user, for the spotter. So I open this as well. And then you see here different properties that you have for the access, windows, screen, devices, streaming, for example, live view, playback streaming limited to 5 minutes or whatever. And then you have here also this privacy tool. And here you have for the privacy zone as well as for the object blurring, the different capabilities for live streaming, playback streaming, and export. And then you can set up the live streaming, for example, change the object blurring state and client. Then this allows you to switch it on and off in the spotter. So I can do this. Then you have here, for example, object blurring always on or always off. And the same for the playback and an export. And so you can now remember that if you remember all these other features that we have out of your history with Mirasys, you can set up multiple rules. So for example, I have a customer who has cameras inside his building and outside the building, and outside the building, for example, he has also public places. So he can switch on the facial blurring on the public places, but not inside. And then he can say, okay, the guys in the guard is allowed to see the live stream without any object blurring. So he's ticking this off, but in the playback, the system should blur the objects. So for those cameras which have enabled object blurring, the system is doing this right now. So that means in the public place or in general, he can see everything without blurring. But if he wants to see the playbacks, then everything is blurred. This is just an example how it could be used like. Okay, so I switch it off and switch it off. So this is simply done the configuration in that way. Let's move to the spotter. All right. So I'm switching this off. So I clear it here as well. Okay, so let's go to the main station first of all. Remember that I have switched on the object blurring. So you see all moved objects are blurred in that way. But what you don't see is here that the privacy mask is on. Yeah, you see this screen here. So then let's go to the privacy. put it, open it, and you see here privacy zones are client are not in use. I go to in use, and you see the privacy mask is on. So I switch it off. I switch it on. And the same I can do also with the object blurring here. So you see immediately the guys, how they are looking like, and now everything is shaded, is blacked. So there is a limitation. I'm pretty sure that you see it also here. There is one guy who's not moving. Yeah. And this is really depending on how you configure the system in the backyard. So after a certain time, the system cannot understand that this is a moving object anymore. Yeah, because he's not moving. In that case, he's not blurring him anymore. The same is happening with faces, not in that style, but in the distance as well, that you see also in the distance, this face is not recognized as a face. But in this case, in this distance, if you correctly adjust the system or configure the system, it does not mean you cannot identify anybody in that distance as well. Okay, let's take another example. Where is my floor? Yes, here, Udo is here. Yeah, you see myself in my floor here in my home office. And you see also here that I can enable, disable my protection. So it's not correctly adjusted, so it should be faster in that way. And then I can enable it or disable it. Yeah, it looks like that I put it on motion detection here, on motion recording. Yeah, and put it back to in use. And the same is also happening if you replay it. So if I'm doing the recordings right now, if I'm moving to here, it is doing the same because it's an overlay. Okay, same can be done. So I have here, for example, a street walk with multiple faces. You see also here that the faces are blurred after a certain time. And even on the motorway, it is working. Ah. Yeah. So you see that I have a lot of noise here inside the system, so it is not very good picture. So when you see that, for example, the tree here is also shading, but you see also here the cars are shading. The objects are blurred. And this is really depending how good the accuracy is on how much noise you have in the system, on the camera, how accurate you have adjusted the system in that way. But in general, it's very easy to use and very easy to manage in that way. And also here, if you put it then to the export, for example, let's do it to the export. Yes, I have here something. Okay. Some seconds. If I'm doing this here and I'm going to export, then we have here our SEF2 secure export format 2, which allows you to use also the privacy masks, the face blurring, the object blurring, or masking here in this export. And then if you are exporting it, then your objects are also masked in that way. So you even can do this with the exports. All right. Anything else that I can show to you? Let's go back to live picture. Clear the export here. taking back, for example, the main station. So you can do it here as well. If you go to the export, you have the same. Can switch on and off the privacy mask, not in use, whatever you like. And even if you want to do this with multiple cameras, you can do it as well. So now I'm stressing my system. Okay, here I have automatic image fit off. Yeah, then you can see, okay, here everything is working fine. So all objects are either masked or blurred. And this is really depending on how performant your system is at the end, because this is taking also a bit of performance in that way. Okay, let's go back to our presentation. Yeah, let's have a wrap up what you have seen today. So we have presented to you a part of our GDPR toolkit that allows you to manage the access to the system, as well as the encryption of the system, as well as also how to handle your video streams from the user client, from the client perspective. So if they can see, for example, privacy masks, if they can switch them off or on, etc., etc. We went then through the face blurring and object blurring. We have talked about that it is an overlay, that it is a certain AI model that is running on the Spotter client. And we have also talked about that it is content of the basic or standard license, so you don't need to pay for this. We have seen the different user roles. We have seen also how to configure it in a very light way, that you have the chance to react on the camera resolution, to react on the camera quality, etc., etc. We have talked about that it is certainly taking some performance from the client PC. So it is client PC should be always the best PC that you have. So to invest into this is the best way to make your customer happy. So servers does not need that much performance as the client is requiring. And we have also seen that you can use it in live export and in recorded video streams, that you can switch it on, switch it off, depending on the rules that you have or on the rights that you have as an end user. So, and I think this was a really good overview that you have seen, okay, how such a simple tool can ease up your life. I just want to give you an additional example. I see it very often that when you have to protect a private building or industrial zone, that you have also cameras on the fence, and on the fence they are looking also to the public places, yeah, to the street or whatever. And then when the data protection officer is coming, or the data protection responsibility is coming, he said, okay, you need to have privacy mask on this. And it would be the best to do it on the camera, because then you cannot record it. But I see it very often that customers are coming and saying, okay, Udo, can we change this somehow? Because we have an accident there, yeah? And the police is asking for giving us the video footage. So, and we need to say no, because this is the privacy mask is always on the camera. I said, yes, discuss this with your data protection officer or the responsibility guy, and ask him if you may use the server-based privacy mask, and then give the special user rights, for example, for eyes only, that if he is able, or if he is coming and he's logging into the system, that you allowed to see it and export it for the police. The same could happen also instead of using privacy masks to use facial blurring or object blurring instead of, because then you see what is happening in front of my area. So you don't need to wait until somebody is climbing over the fence. You see that somebody is going to the fence, is sitting there, or is preparing himself for climbing over the fence. I see it very often that privacy masks are used up straight to the fence, and you do not see what is happening there. If you blur the objects, you cannot identify them, but you see that somebody is doing something there. So this gives you more example, or it gives you an example how to communicate to your data protection officers, to your data protection responsible managers, that you have more tools to ease up your life and maybe also the life of third parties like police officers. Okay, let's move to the Q&A sessions right now. So I see here some questions. Okay, there's one question is coming up. Okay, how many video streams can I show on Spotter with facial blurring? This is really depending on the hardware, not on the software, honestly. So this is really depending on the hardware. If you're using, for example, an old machine with an XP on site, maybe an E3 first generation or whatever, or an Atom or whatever, then don't wonder that it is not working for, let's say, 2 or 3 cameras. But if you're using today an i7 or i9, you have an NVIDIA graphic card, an RTX 4000 inside, for example, for decoding the camera streams, so that the CPU is much more relaxed. So then in that way, it is working without any problems with 2, 4, 6, 7, 16 cameras. It is also working on the video wall, because then you have special display servers, which are, let's say, a super client in that way, with an NVIDIA graphic card inside, and they're only doing streaming and decoding. They're doing nothing else like PTZ control, etc. So in that way, it's also working. Okay. There is another question. Is it also part of the base or pro version of version 9? Yes, because data protection is not related to any, let's say, version, minor version or cheaper version. So if you don't pay enough, so it is not part of your system. No, this is not true. So it's part of base, pro, and enterprise. And free of charge, as I mentioned. So it's part of the basic standard license that we have. Okay, there is another question coming in. Okay, what is happening if you exported it and you want to see only one face of multiple faces inside? I had this case already. Yeah, so that means if you export the videos, yeah, and you want to have only one face blurred and the rest of the faces needs to be blurred because of data protection. So I know that there are some rules in some countries where banks needs to provide this, or in a jail, etc., etc. This is something we can do, but it is not ready. So we are looking for a project where we can do this, and we do it, or we plan to do it on exports only, not on the system itself, because this would create performance issues in that way. So you want to do this on exports only, because this is the most important issue, that if you're exporting, for example, pictures of a thief, and you see also other passengers there or other end customers there in a supermarket, that you can blur all the faces of the other customers and only have the thief in real life. This is something that we can do, but it depends on the project. So actually we don't have any project for this, so that we have said, okay, in that case we have it in our pocket, and if somebody is really interested for a big project, then let's do it, let's rock it. Okay, I don't see any additional questions, so I think then I have answered all your question marks. Okay. I learned that I need to wait a couple of seconds. All right, I think we are done. So then at the end, I would like to thank you for your patience and your attendance to this webinar. I see that we have a big party today. Yeah, great. I like it. So if you have any critics, just let us know. If you see, okay, Udo, this is not fine, what you are doing there, just let me know, because we can only improve our webinars by your comments. And if you have any other ideas, just let us know as well. Anyway, let us stay in contact. So the next webinar will be, I think, in 2 weeks' time, about the next interesting topic. So please check our web page. There are also the webinars with a registration link, so you can register for this. And this webinar is recorded right now, so it will be published on our YouTube channel as well, so that you can share it with your customers, with your colleagues, to give them ideas as well. So use it as a sales tool. Everything what is on our YouTube channel, you can use as a sales tool to your end customers and look what Mirasys can do. You can buy it from me, for example. This is a very good argument to your end customers or to your colleagues, also to convince your boss to invest into Mirasys, into the latest version 9.4, for example, or 9.5 is coming up, and so to enrich your life. So at the end, I say thank you for your attendance. I hope that you have enjoyed it. And I would like to say, stay healthy, be successful, and stay tuned with us. See you next time. All the best. Bye-bye.